This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest today is Carl Gould. Carl, thank you for joining us on Rising Tide.
Kevin, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I've been looking forward to this. I told you off line. I'd done a little reconnaissance work this morning and watched some other videos that you had online. And
Cool.
that my YouTube videos would have the same numbers that you have.
Well, I've been blessed in that area. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad I'm able to contribute to lives of others. That's all.
I think it's a blessing, but it's also probably a testimony to a lot of hard graft out there as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get started early in my entrepreneurial career. I was coming off of a leg injury in college, but it may have turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
So was this like sports related?
Oh, I'd love to say it was. Well, I guess it was. It was pickup football, and it was a non-contact injury. So
Okay.
I'd love to tell you there was some great dramatic story around it.
Yeah, it's like those football injuries. I dropped the remote when I was watching a football game, and I blew a hammy or something. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I wish there was a better story, but the ending of the story was better than the beginning.
Hey, on Rising Tide, we dig deep. So speaking of digging deep, tell our listeners a little bit about Carl.
Sure. So I born and raised in New Jersey, still live in New Jersey. I was one of 10 children from a second-generation immigrant family, Italian, French Canadian, and Alsatian. So think Europe. Yeah, if you ever drank Kronenbourg beer, you know where Alsace-Lorraine is. Okay.
Absolutely.
So there you go. There's always a beer tie-in somewhere. And so I was living in New Jersey on my way to study accounting and finance in college. Had a leg injury, left school, and since I couldn't afford to go back to school on my own, I started my first business. I started a landscaping company, which is what I did in high school, and I grew that business from 1986 to 92. Doubled that business every year until I sold it, and then in 1992 started a construction company, which morphed into a real estate development company, sold that in 2004. But my coaching career started in 1991 when I attended a Tony Robbins seminar. Really loved the idea of helping people set goals and chase their dreams. And I got really deep into NLP and DISC and other sciences of peak performance.
Sure.
So all through the 90s, there I was coaching as a side hustle. And but I knew I really wanted to do this as a full-time business. So in 2002, I launched the company that I have today, 7 Stage Advisors.
So 1991, you had to be like 6. I mean, you were the youngest Tony Robbins attendee at that time, or?
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I looked at some old photos of me when I first started my company, and I said, "Oh my God, who gave that kid money for anything?" I said, you say, what would you say to your former self? I'm like, oh my God, look older is what I would say.
That's right. Stop looking like Doogie Howser, the MD. That's exactly right. Yeah, you got it.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
It sounds like that, and we'll dig deeper, later on in the chat. But it sounds like to me that you, in that very short bio, you've almost gone from success to success to success. Have there been some bumps along the road? I mean, have there been some obstacles and speed bumps? You're going, whoa, that didn't work out well.
Yeah, for me, every time I launched a new business, I always had this optimistic view in my head that it'll go a certain way. It's going to go just as my business plan said it. And then, that old cliche of no plan, survives contact with the enemy is right.
Yeah.
And so the bumps along the road were all of my pivots. Now, at the time, I kept saying, why is this happening to me? Woe is me. What's the problem? What am I doing wrong? Only to find out later on that I was finding my way, and what I would have considered then to be failures, I look back at now, and I find that it was just really grooming me for where I'm at today. Because they were pivots. You have ideas, they don't work out, or they don't work out as good as you thought. So if you tweak it a little bit, and then all of a sudden you hit that sweet spot, and the customers are responding and they're paying the price, and then the prices you're asking, and then they come back and buy more. Then they make referrals, and you realize, wait a minute, okay, I think we're on to something. But it does take a while to get into that groove. And those are really the main bump. I interpreted them as bumps along the road at the
Sure.
time,
Right.
but looking back, they were really just grooming me for later and more important initiatives.
I I have interviewed a number of people from probably 10 or 11 different countries every week for the last 14 months. And I have never had an interviewee capture the idea that it's not a failure, it's a pivot in such a clear and concise manner. I think you need to put that on a t-shirt. I think you need to trademark that. There's some gold in that phrase right there, because that is so true. I mean, it is, and I think a lot of it has to do with the idea of adaptability and being a little fluid. In the business plan is a guide, but it's not it's not a jailer. It's not shackles. And as you see things where you need to make a slight adjustment, or you need to stop doing it altogether. I mean, I love that idea of pivoting versus, it's almost like the idea of failing forward versus just failure.
You ever see that movie? There's two movies that come to mind. One was Gravity with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
Right.
And the other one was, I think it was The Martian with Matt Damon.
Yep.
And it was all about the quote from the movie Martian that struck me was, at the very last part of the movie, Matt Damon was, they said, everyone wants to hear about how I ate my own poop, right? And basically the mess, he said, he goes, listen, if you continue to solve problems, you get to come home. If you stop solving the problems, I wouldn't be here today. And that, I think, is so relevant in business, in that if you continue to face the problem, stare it down, work through it, and never give up, and always work through the problem, you will win in business. Because you will have, if you there's an expression that says, "Oh, I tried everything. No, you didn't, because if you tried everything, it'd have worked out. You tried what you thought you should do, or you tried what was convenient, but you didn't go to the uncomfortable and you didn't go to the inconvenient. Had you probably would have gotten through.
Sure.
Sure. And we live in a day and age right now where there are the connectivity of the world, and the fact that there are just flat out 7 billion people around and 10 billion in our lifetime. There is a market for everything.
Yeah.
Your whatever idea you have is a good idea. It's not the idea, it's can you get it to your ideal client avatar consistently, sustainably, and profitably. And for that, you have to just keep on moving.
Right.
As long as you keep doing that, you're going to be fine.
I don't know. I mean, I hate to disagree with you, but I think pet rocks and those sleeper blanket things, I think those are failures. I don't care if they sold 100 billion of them. Those are not successes. That is just sheer buyer stupidity. So I can't ever let my kids hear you say that, because they want a dog. And I said, why would we do that? I have a pet rock. I literally have a pet rock on my desk, and it's the only pet I'm not allergic to. So, and my daughter right over here is staring me down. She's saying, I heard that. I heard that, Dad. That's right. You're going to pay for that later. So, okay. So you and I are stepping on an elevator in an office building, and we're going up 10 floors. I'm headed to my office. I'm a solopreneur. I'm getting started in business. Maybe I'm a second stage of development or whatever, but give me your elevator pitch of Carl Gould Enterprises.
Well, hustle your way to 1 million, team your way to 5 million, process your way to 20 million. So only 4% of businesses ever make it to $1 million or more in annual revenue, right? 96% will never make it there. But you will hustle your way. Anybody can hustle their way to 1 million. And again, pet rock. All right, we'll stay away from pet rocks. We'll leave pet rocks alone.
Hey, this is your show.
But every other business other than pet rocks, you can hustle your way. It doesn't, it's effort and attitude first, will make your idea better. I mean, Lamborghini is known as a luxury car. Well, the Lamborghini is a tractor company. They were the slowest, least performing vehicle on any road or off-road. They went to Porsche and said, can you teach us how to create a luxury car? They said, no, I'm not going to teach you. They said, well, screw you. I'm going to do it on my own. And
Mm.
so Lamborghini went from a tractor, the least performance mechanism on the planet, to one of the finest tuned performance vehicles
Yeah.
on the planet because of effort and attitude.
So you have done this. I mean, you're not just a theorist, you're also a practitioner. I mean,
Right.
you kind of outlined those in your kind of short recap bio or whatever, but you've actually done this at least, I mean, from what I was reading earlier, at least 3 times
Yeah,
previously.
multi-million sized businesses. Yeah, 3 times. We've advised others, and and we've had other businesses. But yeah, we've reached that milestone 3 times.
And I mean, reached that milestone and exited
Yeah,
at that level. So, I mean, I love the fact that, I mean, there are so many, coach gurus, swamis out there that are going, hey, I can teach you how to do this, but they actually haven't even walked the walk themselves yet. So
right.
you
Right. Yeah.
certainly have walked that path. So what would you say would be, if you look back over the, 20, 25, 30 years of kind of your past entrepreneurial history, what has really been the highlight? If you could pick one day out of that entire time, what would that day look like?
1998. I was standing with a representative of our state government because I had gotten to a real estate deal one day before they did, and they really wanted it badly. And this was a time when my business was cash flow broke. My partner in this real estate deal, we were standing next to each other, and we had just literally gone through the cushions of our truck to get $2 in quarters so we can get 2 slices of pizza for lunch. We met with the representative from the state government, and they lowballed us on this real estate deal, which would have been a boom for us. Like it would have really taken care of us. And I insisted on the higher price. My partner's jaw almost cracked on the ground. And afterwards he said, "Carl, we just scraped together $2 for lunch. You just told them you needed that? What are you, nuts?" And so the guy walked away. I got a phone call at 11 o'clock that night at my home saying, "All right, we're going to do it." And so I realized on that day that, one, if you have something of value, you have something of value, no matter what your personal position is. So stay strong on that. And two, we had a vision for what that real estate deal was going to be. So we stuck with it, and we got what we wanted. I doubted myself a lot on the
Sure.
ride home, and I said, "Oh my God, did I just blow this?" But then I got a call that night, and I was like, all right on. That worked out okay. So that was really a good day in my entrepreneurial career for sure.
So I had it in the bag all the time. I knew,
Yeah.
and you're sitting there, you're sitting in your home with your head in your hands on your couch going, what have I done?
Oh, I was talking smack after that.
Oh, there's no doubt.
I had bragging rights
There's
for a
no
while on
doubt.
that one. No
Yeah,
doubt.
exactly. So I want to take a little bit of a shift here and just want to ask you about the idea of entrepreneurs. Like, you talked about, I love the idea of this kind of failing forward and the pivot, but what would you say are the top, maybe 1 or 2 mistakes that entrepreneurs make, on that kind of rise, on that, that upward swing curve that they're trying to grow their business? What are, maybe there's 3 of them. I mean, what are the top
Sure.
mistakes that you see over and over and over again?
Well, the first one is when you're first launching your business, businesses will try to discount their way to market share. And that's a mistake. And especially today, like it was a bad idea 20 years ago before the internet. It's a worse idea now.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is you say, well, I'm just trying to get established. I'm going to cut my price in half. I'm going to get a few clients, and then I'll raise my price accordingly. Well, you don't need to do that. What I say to entrepreneurs is come out with the message that you are now available to the marketplace in a way that you were not available before. I mean, if Oprah Winfrey or Richard Branson launched a coaching company, they would not be discounting their time to gain market share. They would say, I'm available to the marketplace in a way that it never had been before.
Sure.
Because everybody who launches a business, you're launching a business because you have unique value to the market, and you have unique value to a very specific segment of people. So that's number one, is don't discount your way to market share. Sell your value. Sell your value. Now, second part to that comment is you have to know your ideal client avatar.
Yeah.
Most people say, well, whoever's got a checkbook, or whoever drives by my store. That's not your ideal client. The ideal client is the person who is the most likely and best beneficiary of your services. They would pay a premium and they would refer you at the end of it. Think about this for a moment. How many people do you know, and this is for the listener as well, how many people do you know bought a luxury item or a dream item? That dream vacation, or they bought that Tesla, or they bought that watch, or they bought that box row seat at the performance, and then they complained about the price. Not that many. They likely bragged about the price.
Sure.
Right? They said, "Oh my God, check it out. We're front row. It was $1,000, but my God, I'm going to see my idol." Right? They not only spent the money, they bragged about the price. Well, to a certain segment, you are a dream to that ideal client avatar. So if you are the best pet rock manufacturer, I got to go pet rock again.
I'm sorry I brought that up.
I got to redeem myself. But just imagine you're the best, you're just the guru of all things pet rocks. Well, there's a segment out there that are just passionate about that. And if you truly have the goods, if you know how to get the best rock and paint it properly and the right accessories and the best positioning on the desk and how to care and nurture your pet rock, people who are passionate about that would be willing to pay you for your expertise. And so you don't have to discount yourself to people who are passionate about pet rocks. They will want to pay your premium. Here's a good example. My son, 2 years ago, he's in the military now, but he was starting his first year in college. Well, when he was a senior in high school, I could not consume enough information about how to get your kid into college. I couldn't read enough about it. So I wasn't sitting there checking your credentials or finding out how long have you been in this space. I was looking for, do you have the information that's going to help my son pick a college and be successful at it?
Right.
And if you had that and I was your ideal client avatar, I couldn't consume enough of you. Now my kid's in college. Well, you know what? I'm not your ideal client avatar. So you would have to discount to get me to listen to you because I'm not your target.
Yeah.
But if I am your target, you don't need to discount.
But even if they discounted, you wouldn't stick around anyway. So, right. I mean, yeah, it's just kind of a one-off purchase. So, I mean, I love the way you defined an avatar as someone who is those that are most likely to buy and those that would benefit the most. I mean, that's a very clear, kind of encapsulation of how to define me. People have defined that term all over the book, all over the map. So, but it's interesting. I love that, really, the way that you've just really kind of made that very clear and concise.
Oh, great. Thank you. One thing I would add to that is when you're doing your ideal client avatar, ask yourself the question, what is going on in their life or business right now that makes calling you, whoever you are, an urgency right now? Like what is a pivot or trigger event in their life? Did they just move? Did they just lose a loved one? Did they just get a promotion? Did they, reach a milestone age? Are they about to go on a big interview? Like, all of a sudden, when there's something like that going on in their life, it's not just important that they speak to you. It is now urgent that they speak to you. And so let's find out what's going on in their life or business right now that has importance and urgency.
I think that really adds to the definition. I mean, it adds that second layer that, that increases the likelihood of purchase, from, I mean, that really is finding your tribe, so to speak, in essence. That
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Trying to sell. If you had to just choose someone online that really inspired you, give me a name and give me one line and why you would pick that individual.
I would say they're probably both sides to the same coin, but I would say Brendan Bouchard and Marie Forleo.
Yeah.
They are both teaching people how to reach their peak in either small business or in their expertise. and I find their message to be genuine. I find their message to be sincere, and they both strike me as people who are really going for it. They're just laying themselves on the line. I don't get the impression from either one of them that they have some side hustle, that this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it. They're all in.
They're all in, and they're living life without a net. I really respect that.
I mean, looking though at your presence online, I mean, there's some things historically that can kind of lead up to today, but the things that I looked at today were almost all headed in kind of the 7-stage advisors space, or the idea that this is what I do. I coach. I've found kind of that narrow channel that I'm going to run in and niche down to my area of expertise. You've given me a quote earlier that I wrote down, but do you have like a life quote that you've got taped up on your laptop? You've got a tattoo on your arm, something like that says, "Hey, this is," or maybe you've written on your pet rock that says, "This is the kind of the life mantra that I want to live by."
Sure. Well, it was a quote that I initially heard Nelson Mandela include in his speech, and he's often attributed to this quote, but it's really Marianne Williamson from Course in Miracles. And essentially the life quote is that you do not serve the world by playing small, and that by sharing your light and your gift, you create a path for others to do the same. I'm paraphrasing a bit because it's a paragraph long quote, but that whole quote about playing as big as you are and not playing small, because you can't build people up by playing small. You will help people find their path for playing big by you playing big, was essentially the message I got from that.
And I think that's obviously something that you learned, but where in your kind of life cycle, where do you think you really got that message in your mind?
It was, I was part of an organization that had an intranet that was basically LinkedIn before LinkedIn, in the early 2000s. And I was very active in this organization called the Institute for Independent Business. And they had this intranet, we called it mass email, but there was a forum, basically think of LinkedIn today. And I was very active on that. And I would speak. They were in 35 countries. I used to visit a lot of those countries in my coaching. And, you never know what people are hearing you say, or that they're seeing, or that they're even paying attention, to be honest. And I remember traveling to Australia, and there were a number of people who had followed my movements as closer than I did. Like they were like, "Oh, I saw that you did this 6 months ago." And I was like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I did that." And when I got there, I found that there were a number of people that were using some of the content that I've created, some of the speeches that I had given, as tools for them in their life and business. And that's when it really hit me. I said, I'm onto something here. What I'm sharing has value. And for at least this group, or at least for this segment, I'm providing value enough that they felt it was worth their time to invest in, and also to now profess out to others. So that was very gratifying, and made me realize that I was bringing value, and that I actually should continue, because they also encouraged me to continue as well.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at it, your reach was also global. I mean, it wasn't just, just around the corner, and people you had, that were my friends because I grew up with them, or I went to college with them, or whatever. I mean, it was an unknown reach of, a tribe you were reaching, on the backside of the planet, for that matter. But if there was one piece of advice, one line of advice that you could give your pre startup self, your pre-19-year-old landscaping business self, that you think would have been, I mean, it sounds like to me that you've kind of failed forward well, through a whole long progression. But if there was one piece of advice that you think would be game changing, if you knew this when you were 19, what would it be?
I would have told myself to think bigger at every step. So however big you're thinking, think bigger, because I look around and I see other contracting companies, and I say, wow, that's a really big company. I said, well, that's what I was doing back then. What was different between what they're doing and what I was doing? And I said, well, they thought bigger, and they scaled in a way that, I got businesses to a certain point, and then I wanted to move on, and that's fine. And that served me. But when I look back, I left a lot of money on the table by not thinking bigger than I did.
Right.
And so that would be, no matter what I'm thinking, go bigger. I just watched that movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, and there's this great scene in the movie where Freddie Mercury's character is saying to Roger Taylor's character, when he was hitting the high notes in Galileo for Bohemian Rhapsody, go higher, go higher, go higher. And Roger Taylor's like, my God, only dogs can hear this at this point, but Freddie Mercury saw something higher and bigger, and then created one of the most iconic songs in history. And that, that reminded me, think bigger, go higher,
It's amazing. I mean, I think back at all the different questions that I've asked you in this interview. I mean, you have been extremely consistent in this thread of failing forward, or, these are pivot to success, but also to think bigger. I mean, even the quote you gave me, even looking for your ideal client. I mean, everything that you said has had a consistent thread through this. And the next question I'm going to ask you, you've almost already answered, but I want to give you a chance to kind of, circle back and really kind of leave our audience with, in the final segment of our interview here, we call the Rising Tide Micro Course. And I really want you to drill down and say, here's the 3 steps of whatever you want to teach us at this level. Take the next few minutes and just really, really drill down and just kind of, lead our audience into your service or whatever you want to touch on. So you've got the mic, and here is your opportunity to do your 3-step micro course, or however many steps you have. So
you got it. All right, so
Carl.
This is one of my first lessons I learned in differentiation very early in my career when I started out my landscaping company. And I'll share, I've done it in every company that I've ever owned and every company I've ever advised. And what I've done is I've taken the path of leveraging the complaints in the industry rather than focusing on my unique selling proposition. I take the top 5 complaints in the industry currently. What is everybody complaining about? And then I look at the services that I've been providing to my clients for free that I really shouldn't have to provide for free, and that I really should be getting paid for, but I don't, because I do them because you're a good client, and I really shouldn't, but I do anyway. So I make a list of those items, and then I take my current pricing, whatever it is, let's say it's 100. I cross out that line and I double it. And I say, I now charge 200. And then I take that number and I cross that out again and I double it again. And I say, now I charge 400. And then I look at my list of complaints and I look at the list of services and I say to myself, what would I have to provide to my ideal client avatar that would make that highest number seem like a good value? Not a cheap price, but a good value. Okay. And then I can decide to stick with that highest price, or I can decide to modify it. But if I were to take the complaints plus the most requested services, and I were to say to myself, okay, what else would I have to add to make this sound like a good value? I will likely differentiate myself from my competitors very, very quickly. And we have a term for it. We call it the obnoxious offer. It's obnoxious in price, but it's obnoxious in value. We have found that has been a differentiator for our clients, and it's almost right away because you are addressing the pain of the industry and specifically of your ideal client avatar, and we have found that that's an immediate differentiator.
Can I try to recap that in a very short period of time, because that is amazing what you just outlined. So I can't come up with a really concise title because I was trying to capture these, but really it's how to leverage your top 5 complaints of customers to grow your business. So the first one is you make a list of, say, the top 5 complaints that customers have, consistent complaints, that type of thing, that says, here are the clear 5 things that are most on the mind of people that are letting us, giving us negative feedback. The second is you take your prices, you double them, then you mark that line out and you double them again. So virtually you're quadrupling your prices.
Yeah.
Then you say, okay, we're gonna look at those top 5 complaints and we're gonna modify our most requested services or our most valued services and add value to them so that the new price point of these services looks like a good value.
Yeah.
Is
They
that a
would say,
clear?
yeah, you nailed it. I mean, they would say, wow, that's a lot, but I got to tell you, they're giving a lot. They're asking a lot, but they're sure giving a lot.
Right. You're also refining, it looks like you're refining your customer base a bit, where you have this idea that, if they're going to buy at 4 times, they're probably also your most loyal customers.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you look at here's a good example, because some of you are thinking like, oh my God, well I've got to charge all this money. There's other ways to get there. Think of the game Fortnite, right? That's a free game, by a couple of developers that were passionate gamers who said, I don't like the games we have, and I don't like the options you have within the game, and I can't customize as quickly. And Fortnite has become a billion-dollar company and has changed the way games are now made because they just appealed to the passionate gamer and they got them.
How did Fortnite monetize?
By in-app purchases, in-game purchases.
Oh yeah, so, tracking buy levels and things like that up, right? Yeah.
Right, and that's where they make their money. So you can have an obnoxious offer that starts out free, right? But once you're in the game, I can charge you a little bit more for that in-app purchase and that little bit more. If I charge you $3.99 instead of $2.99, are you going to sit there in the middle of a game you're passionate about and say, "Oh well, that's it. I'm gonna cut my experience over $1"?
Exactly.
You say, no way would you do that. But $2.99 to $3.99 is a 30% premium.
Yeah.
How many of you out there would like to just overnight get a 30% premium on whatever you do? Right. Of course you would. So, once, they have appealed to their audience, there's a lot of ways to get to the obnoxious offer, many ways to do that, but they nailed it. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant the way they did it.
And $1 doesn't sound like much, but if you've got, 50 million people playing your game, that is a game changer.
Yeah.
That dollar is a game changer.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, you have provided so much value in a very short period of time today, and I'm so grateful. Is there any question that I haven't asked you that you just wanted to touch on here as we're wrapping up? And then after that, if you just want to let people know where they can find you, the best place to find you online.
Sure. The main message that I would give, we've helped launch over 5,000 businesses in 35 countries, and one of the things that we've learned over the years is that every one of those businesses could have been as successful as they wanted to be, but what most early entrepreneurs forget is that they are in the marketing business, and you can't get caught in this feast and famine syndrome of, well, I'm not going to market because I'm fulfilling the order or providing the service, and then when I'm out of work, then I start marketing again. That is a slippery slope that very few survive, especially when you're early stage, is that you have to turn on the marketing and lead generation funnel, and it can never be turned off ever. And as long as you accept that reality, you will have a wonderful time in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship will be the most energy draining thing you ever do, but at the same time, it'll be the most rewarding work you ever do. So they balance off. So if you're up for the marathon, you will cross the line every time. So that would be my message, because I see so many people stop one step short of the finish line.
Can it be energy draining and energizing at the same time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is really almost like a paradox,
Well, at the end of every day, from the neck down, I'm exhausted, but I can't sleep because from the neck up, I'm like, that was awesome.
The gears are just spinning, continuing.
Exactly.
The hamster's running on the wheel, for sure.
Right. I mean, you weren't born to go into your casket with a lot of energy left over. Use it all up.
Leave it on the field. There you go.
And if you're doing what you love, you will be, spiritually and emotionally and psychologically, you'll be so energized you'll want to do it. You'll want to wake up the next day and do it again.
Sure. So where can people best find you?
carlgould.com is the gateway for all the things that I do. So that's probably the best way to go. We have a contact us page where we offer everyone who comes to any presentation or listens to a podcast, a free, what we call business analysis, a growth analysis to find out how much your business can grow. It's spend an hour or two with a growth advisor on us. That's our give back to the entrepreneurial community.
Wow, what a great gift.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so grateful that you allowed me to be on here. So take us up on it. Go to carlgould.com, put business analysis right in the subject line, and we'll set you up with a growth advisor and show you how to take your business to the next level.
That's CARLGOULD.com.
Once you've heard it, it's hard to unthink that.
Hard to unthink. That's it's like it rhymes with gold.
That's right. Well, there you go. There you go.
Carl, we are so grateful that you took your time today and just shared so much, like I said, so much value in just a short period of time. And I really have enjoyed just getting to know you and just allowing you, hopefully, space to kind of share your message with our listeners. And I know that they will benefit from that as well. And Carl, just thank you for really just playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.